talk gardening with our good friend Sally Cunningham. She's here, and you always bring us something wonderful on Sundays. What do you have today?
I brought you some fragrant plants to point out that there are certain plants that deer don't eat. One of the most biggest complaints I ever hear is deer ate this and deer ate that. And I was at an organic gardening conference yesterday where they covered the topic of making borders around your garden, such as bee balm. This plant, somebody could put catmint or bee balm as a whole border around a garden, and you could get the deer to just stay away. These are sedums, other things that deer don't eat. And I also want to tell you, while I'm giving gardening news, that we have passed a real milestone. We have just passed the last average frost date. So from now on, there's still risk of occasional nighttime frost up until easily Memorial Day weekend, but it's less likely that we're going to have that happen. So keep an eye on it. If you plant your tomatoes or something, be ready to cover them, and it should all work out.
All right, first question this morning comes from Orchard Park. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi, Sally. I have a question about my pussy willow bush. How close can I plant that to the house without worrying about the foundation?
Well, that's a really good question, and I would read carefully the tag if it says ultimate width, how wide it can be. There's actually a dwarf pussy willow now that might help you out, but if you've bought one, it might say 30 feet someday. So I would put it 15 feet, 25 feet from the house, as far out as you can stand to put it. Farther out is better.
Jackie from Corfu, good morning. What's your question?
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a lilac bush that was damaged when a tree fell on it, and we cut back all of the broken parts and waited to see what it would do. This year, half of the bush is about 6 feet tall. The other half is only about 2 feet, and I'm wondering if I should cut the big part down in the fall or try to get rid of the smaller part. I have a very lopsided bush.
Okay, normally with a lilac bush, people reach the point where the big part gets too big anyway. So I would trace that biggest branch, if the whole thing's looking lopsided to you, after it blooms, not in the fall, now, after the lilac finishes blooming, take the biggest branch down and cut it off at the ground. And it will average out over time. But don't cut them in the fall, cut lilacs back after they bloom.
Annette from Belmont, good morning. What's your question?
Hi, Sally. I have 2 mock orange bushes that I planted 4 years ago, and they still haven't bloomed. Is there something that I can do to cause them to bloom?
Mock orange is a wonderful old-fashioned plant. It needs some sun, and they may take a while to start blooming after they've been transplanted or purchased. A little bit like lilac, sometimes they wait a few years. They don't like to be moved. So have patience, and I would fertilize it now. Give it a little bit of balanced or high phosphorus fertilizer.
All right, our last question comes from Nancy in Randolph. Good morning.
Good morning, Sally. I have a question. Because the ground is so wet, can you give me some maybe do's or don'ts in planting our vegetable garden?
It's a good question.
Yeah, very good question. Well, if you have a raised bed, you can plant everything. Raised beds drain. But otherwise, for most of your plants, don't plant it if you can make a mud pie in your hands. If you can make a cake, forget it. Wait till the ground is crumbly, and then it's time to plant. Really, plants that are planted June 1st, say a tomato, catch up with the ones that were rushed into the ground in May and then are too cramped and can't get forward. Have a great gardening week, everybody. Enjoy, and I'll talk to you next week.
And Sally's going to be proud of me. I'm actually going to buy some plants today.
Wow,
Yeah.
you are
You've been rubbing off
a
on me.
convert.
All right, we'll come up next.